Every year, when we do these seminars, we blast out of the gate and we don't slow down. But this year, we are taking it to a whole nother level. We're bringing the interactive format that changed the seminar game at the Breeders' Cup last year to both the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby. No messy note taking. You get a precision-tuned interactive PDF covering the Kentucky Oaks, the Kentucky Derby, and key undercard races. Plus, join me live on April 30th for our exclusive Q&A to finalize all your wagering decisions for the weekend. A replay is included if you missed the live version. Secure your spot now. We have limited reservations at PassTheWire.com. Well, we are back for our annual Kentucky Derby preview that we've done for a couple of years. Popular, fun show to do. I look forward to it. I hope you guys do as well. And I think we got an interesting race to talk about this year, gentlemen. What do you think?
Very interesting.
Absolutely. Extremely fast on numbers.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, another one of my early observations, and Dan, this is probably going to conflict with a lot of your philosophies, but, you know, years ago, 10, 15 years ago, if Ed or Dan, you guys would have said, hey, you know, what do you think of a horse with 1, 2, or 3 starts heading into the Derby? I'd have been like, man, I don't know. But now it's not I don't know. And if you look at this year's race, there's a couple of them in there. So, I mean, you know, if you put 3 or 4, you know, with such lightly raced horses in it, and you know, how much does it matter? Because they're racing other, you know, lightly raced contenders. So I think we're getting away from a lot of those, you know, quote, requirements that you used to have to kind of be a major Kentucky Derby contender. I think it's changing fast, and I think this year is a good example of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, even what was made 2023. So 3 years ago, I definitely, even after Justify, was like, well, he's Triple Crown winner. That was just an aberration. I'm still gonna play against the Apollo type horses, and then Mage, of course, bit me in the rump. So yeah, 3 years ago, a horse like Chief Wallaby would be one that I'd be looking to completely dismiss, or the Puma.
And even Chad Barton is coming in on 3 starts.
So that was my next point, though. I am going to draw the line at 2 career starts before the Derby. At the price emerging market's going to be, and I'm sure we'll talk about them individually, but to me, that's still where I need to see a horse, especially against this group, that's actually good and has some depth at the top end. In a 3rd career start, I'm just going to have to play against that one. But Chief Wallaby would absolutely be a horse 3, 4, 10, 15 years ago I wouldn't have used for a nickel, and now he's one of the major contenders and possibly an eye.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That was the point I was for sure trying to make, because it's just, you know, you beat yourself, like you said.
Right.
You know,
I mean, I like 2 fields.
What's really funny about all that is, you know, I don't know if you guys have ever looked at John White's strikes for the Derby. I love it. I think it's an awesome tool. He actually got rid of. He just tossed it and said it has nothing. Just take it out. It doesn't mean anything anymore. So I'm with you guys, though. I still got to draw the line somewhere. I really don't want 2 or 3 starts going into the Derby, but 4. I guess I'm okay with that because I do like the Puma. So, and Chief Wallaby's got those numbers. It's funny about Chief Wallaby. On paper, he's faster on the Ragasons than Sovereignty last year going into the Derby. So you're gonna. Yeah, I mean, are you really going to dismiss Chief Wallaby when you're staring at rag sheets that are faster than Sovereignty? I mean, it's kind of. But the first 6 or 7 horses are really fast on numbers. So it should be a very interesting Derby, I think.
Yeah. And, you know, I'll say this about Chief Wallaby. I know we'll talk about him individually, but being that, you know, you both mentioned him as a contender, I thought he probably had the worst of the trips in the Florida Derby, the way I saw it. Especially for a lightly raced horse. He was, when I watched that race, I said, you know what? I think he's the one I want coming out of this race, as the most likely to improve and get the most out of the race. But we'll see. You're looking at rags. I'm looking at thoroughgraphs. So we should have a good kind of compare there.
I'm looking at tea leaves.
Okay. Well, Ed's probably got the best, most reliable.
I'm a rag guy too. So,
Harry Brown or the rags guys, but tea leaves work. All right. I guess we'll go in the order that I think this is maybe the points order or something, but I got Commandment first. So Ed, lead off. Commandment. What do you think?
No, we've already touched on the Florida Derby a little bit, which seems to be the premier prep race, at least in terms of depth. And we'll talk about the two behind Commandment as well. But what's interesting to me when you talk about these preps, Commandment, the Puma, Chief Wallaby, if any of those three had gone in, let's say, the Wood Memorial, they probably would have won by 20, and we'd be having a Bellamy Road situation. But they ended up on the Florida Derby, and was a fantastic race. So I understand that people are excited to, maybe bet the actual winner of what looks like the deepest prep race. But with that, the dollars flow to it. And I'm just not sure the value is going to be here on this one, guys. I'm sort of getting, what was Brad's horse? Swift was live to a Millie, Angel of something a few years ago.
Angel Empire.
Was it Angel of Empire?
But I know the horse you're talking about.
Yeah, just one of those, and I think he was actually favored when all was said and done. He finished fourth. I'm sort of getting those vibes from this one. And listening to Brad after all three of his horses worked last weekend, I'm not convinced he thinks this is his best horse either. So to me, the price just isn't going to be there. Of course, I'm not going to be shocked if the Florida Derby winner comes right back and wins this. He's consistent. We know he knows where the wire is, but I think he's an underlay.
I can't argue that. Doesn't even have the kind of right pattern for me either. The buyers have kind of, 101 back to 100, even though he was – I won't say he was all out to win the Florida Derby, because if you watch Pratt closely, he was trying to win, but he wasn't just and heels, throw the reins at him, and if he wins, he wins. So maybe there's some improvement. Whenever they have three preps, which this one does, January 3rd back to the 28th of March, usually they have to already have run fast enough to win. And I'm not sure a 6 rag or 100 Briz or 100 buyer is going to win this race. I mean, there's too many good ones in here. This is too fast of a race, and I think he's an underlay. I think obviously if you're betting trifectas and supers, he could hit the board. But and honestly, as much as I love Saez, him on a dead closer in a 20 horse field, I don't know. I don't know if that's a perfect fit either. So of all the top 5 or 6 that I would pitch, he would probably be the first one I would pitch.
It's interesting. I mean, I'm not going to really disagree with either one of you guys, because it's very unlikely that I land on him, but not for the same reasons. What I'll say about him is, when I look at him, I see a very game, well-prepped, professional racehorse that makes a lot of sense. Going to be the favorite, one of the favorites for sure. But I just, in my gut, have a feeling somebody, maybe even 2 or 3, are going to be better than him, given the day. So, I really don't have a knock on him per se. On Thoroughgraph, he's got a very nice pattern. He's got a not fast enough yet pattern, but on the cusp and improving. So I generally like to see that. I like to look for a horse that I think is going to go forward. But again, my main reservation with him is that I just, in my gut, think that there's going to be somebody, at least one or two, that are better than him. So I'm likely not landing on Commandment as well. So, all right, so nobody's on the probable favorite. He will be the favorite, right, Ed, or will Renegade be the favorite?
I think it'll be the Renegade or Further Ado.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Renegade will be favored.
Yeah, I kind
Likely
of.
Renegade, but
All right, Further Ado. He's next on the list. Let's talk about him. Dan, you could start.
Well, I think of all the horses, he's the fastest by numbers. I mean, the Rag's the fastest, the Briz is the fastest, the Byer's the fastest. And I guess you could say, well, he's just a Keeneland freak. But I mean, he won the Kentucky Jockey Club at Churchill. So, okay, the number wasn't that great, but he did win, and he came right off a maiden win to win. And that's not very easy to do. And then once that happened, everything was to target and to get 2 preps in him to get him ready for the best race of his life in the Derby. So he's only got 2 preps, and that's legit too, because he hasn't run his 3rd race back as November 29th. I mean, it ain't like it was December 31st. So, I mean, this is a true street sense type 2 prep into the Derby to run your best race. Now, the question is, with Johnny V, I love Johnny V. I think he fits this horse like a glove. The whole key is the break. He's got to get in position. This horse has to be in that Smarty Jones, Barbaro, American Pharaoh type stalking position. And if he can't get there early, then he's not going to win. Bellamy Road was in position early. What would have happened with Bellamy Road if he doesn't get hurt? Maybe he runs on and wins that Derby. I don't know. But he's got that gaudy number that nobody else has, even though the other got really good ones. He's the only one I can say, if he runs his race, he will win. Now, do you want 4-1 when there's 5 or 6 horses that can win? I don't know, but I'm not leaving this horse out of any pick 4s or 5s.
Wow. Okay. I'll take it from here because I've got a completely different opinion of Further Ado than you.
that means I get to break the tie.
Huh? Yeah, you'll be the tiebreaker. You'll be the tiebreaker. I'm gonna make a bold statement here that's either gonna come back to haunt me and make me look like an idiot or make me look like a star. I don't think he's got a chance, and I'll tell you why. And I'll also say, if we had legal exchange wagering in the United States, I give you 5-10 to 1. I'd lay on him.
Wow.
I don't believe in him, and I'll tell you why. I'm a big believer in the patterns, and like I said, I like to look for a horse I think is going forward. All right, when he ran that monster race at Keeneland to 2, okay. He ran a 1 negative on Thoroughgraph. Yes, he won the next race, but he ran a 5 1/4. He regressed. Now he comes back in his 2nd start at 3, and good horses, what do? They get faster at 3, and they run better than their best 2-year-old number. Well, I said going into his 3-year-old year that, when he runs back to that Keeneland race, any race he's in is for 2nd. The problem, and where I think Brad went wrong, is he ran the race that you want to see him run on the first Saturday in May. Last time at Keeneland, he runs a 2 negative. All right, monster race, fastest race that anybody in the race ran. Well, last time he ran a race like that, he regressed 5 points. He regresses 5 points here, he ain't going to win, and he's got to take it 1.25 miles. I'm against him, especially at a shorter type price. I bet against these horses my entire career, and he's the kind of horse I hope takes a ton of money and people hype him up and love that number. Now I respect Brad Cox. I mean, the guy is as good as it gets. you know, Johnny, I have confidence in. He's getting up there in age, but he's going to put him in the right spot. But at 1.25 miles, off that monster race, I can't see him running back to that race. He didn't do it, you know, at 2, and I don't think he's going to do it at 3. So that's you could you know, play this back and embarrass me Saturday night or Sunday. Give me till Sunday morning.
Yeah, I was going to say I'd give you till Sunday.
Yeah, I'll be licking my wounds on Saturday.
But John, can you give me one thing that if he doesn't regress and he runs that same number,
race is over.
The race is. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he will. But I think he's the only one that if he runs a race he's already run, he'll win.
I can't intelligently argue with. I don't think anyone can intelligently argue with that. That's looking at those 2 races. Honestly, if he runs back to the race he ran at 2, he would be extremely tough to beat. You know, on numbers, and the 2 negative is a monster race. So now the key is the tiebreaker.
Well, I'm going to. I will say of the 3 top choices, we haven't talked about Renegade yet, but Commandment, Further Ado, and Renegade. Further Ado does seem to be the most binary. He either runs his race and is obviously a contender, probably to win, or just doesn't fire and is nowhere. Like he's not hanging on for 3rd, I don't think. Whereas Commandment and Renegade, they can run their race and just get beat by better horses, maybe Further Ado. I have a stat, and I haven't shared this on social yet, so this is I'm breaking it here. Since 2010, jockeys who are riding a Derby horse for the first time are 3 for 90.
Wow.
2 of the 3 are John Velasquez, Animal Kingdom and Authentic. And the 3rd is Flavian Pratt on Country House, who didn't even win the race. So Johnny V, as you noted, I mean, this, you know, how many chances does he have left? He certainly makes the most of them when he picks up a Derby mount. Now, is 3 for 90 a reason not to use others? Of course not. I mean, there's 19 losers every year, but I did think it was interesting that of the 3 winners, Johnny was 2 of them.
Interesting for sure.
All that said, I would say I agree more with Dan. I just think the way Brad has trained this horse, and the Tampa Bay Derby was hardly disappointing, and the Puma is one of the contenders as well. No shame in losing to him off the bench. If Brad is on a trajectory where this horse somehow actually moves forward off that bluegrass, lights out. So it's all a matter of the price you're willing to take. If Renegade's favored, I don't see how Further Ado is unplayable given mine and Dan's opinion. But if you share what John thought, I definitely can understand fading at 9-2 or 5-1 in this field. But for me, he is one of, as of right now, 2 ways, and they're both from the same barn. And you already know what I think of Commandment, so you can figure out who the other one is.
Right. I think that was a really interesting discussion of that horse with, I think, 3. I don't know the right word, but 3 well-reasoned opinions. You know,
astute.
Yeah, I gotta go with astute. 3 astute opinions of the same horse, and it'll be interesting to see how he runs for sure. Renegade. Okay, I'll lead off with Renegade. I think you know, Renegade is a horse to me that, you know, and his pattern, his numbers support this. He's just gotten better every start. There's really no way that I can knock him or find any you know, glitch that I see. I thought that what's his name? Chad's horse. Ed, what was the name of the Chad's horse that scratched that won the Louisiana, the Bluegrass?
No, Paladin.
Paladin. I thought Paladin was the leading horse going in, and this horse, you know, was not far behind him, and he kind of inherited the top role, in my opinion, when Paladin defected. I think he's legitimate. I think he's got a good chance. I think draw aside, which we don't know yet, but I think the way I see the pace likely unfolding, he's in the right spot, running at the right time, and I think he's one of the major horses to have to deal with that last eighth of a mile. What say you, Ed?
Yeah, hard to disagree. One thing I've appreciated this Triple Crown season, one horse we've had, which we'll talk about later as we get down the points leaderboard, but Silent Tactic, we know who he is. He runs his race. It's Mark Cassie's. He's willing to send him out every 4 or 5 weeks, and he's consistent. And the fact that Renegade blew the doors off him and Silent Tactic still stayed on for second, I think gives us a good gauge of how much better Renegade is than some of the other ones. Now, the great thing about the Derby is he has to converge on horses like Commandment and Further Ado and other top horses, but it's hard to knock what we've seen so far. Certainly from the Remsen on, he's been a major player. Again, to me, it comes down to price. If he's the favorite sub 4-1, I'm just going to have to gamble against. It's a little short for me, but if he's bunched up with Commandment and Commandment can be the one I toss, then hopefully I'll find something else to hook up with Renegade, because he to me, if you offered a head-to-head with Commandment, it'd be a no-brainer. I'd be on Renegade. So from a wagering perspective, he's definitely one I'm not going to let beat me, especially with some of the longer shots I like that we'll talk about later. Hopefully we'll find some long shots around the multis as well. I know that's Dan's specialty, so I'll leave it to him to maybe help me out with that. But yeah, Renegade, I guess if I needed a show bet for my life, he'd be it in the Derby.
I was just gonna say the same thing. If you had to bet the show on a horse, or if you're one of those guys that like the horse second and third and supers in the Derby and put a bunch of horses on top, he would be the one. I just don't. I'm so much a numbers guy. I'm really struggling to get over the numbers. Now, if he ran in last year's Derby, his Rag and his Briz and his Buyer are completely fine. He fits with the top two in that race. And the fact that he's only got 2 preps really helps him, because that should move him forward in his next start, But that 98 Buyer and that 97 Briz, so they both agree, which they don't always do. And usually the Briz is higher than the Buyer on these bigger, better horses. And then the Rag of 6 last year, again, Sovereignty was 6.75. So I'd be all gaudy over this horse last year. But this year I'm staring at 5 or 6 other horses that are all faster on paper. So I'm having trouble getting over that at 7-2. Now, if he was 8-1, I wouldn't care. I would say, well, he's 2 preps. He's going to move forward. He's Todd Pletcher, and he's got the best rider on the planet. So you got a bunch of positives. You just got to be able to swallow the fact that he's going to be 7-2. 4-1 would be probably the highest he could possibly be. I don't see him being higher than that. Now, on the multis, do you really want to go into the Derby being alive for a score if you can catch a price somewhere else, which always seems to happen on Derby Day, and the Pat Day Mile is going to come up crazy. The turf's going to come up crazy. So you got plenty of chance to the Derby in the pick 5 and not have him. Boy, that's a tough one. I would think I got to have him somewhere. I mean, it's just a 50-cent ticket. I mean, I would hate to have him hang up 25,000 to Renegade and not have him. I mean,
yeah, no.
I'll share something with our viewers. This is his Thorograph career pattern. 2 years old, 14.5, 7.5. 3-year-old, 3-1. So cumulatively 14 and a half, 7, 5, 3, 1. He's just gotten faster in reasonable increments, steadily getting a little faster. The increments are getting a little smaller each time. He's got what I would say historically a classic top derby type horse pattern. And when you put that one up against everybody else in the race, even further ado, it's not an unrealistic expectation for a horse to jump from a 1 to a 2 negative. It just isn't, especially a horse with a pattern like this. So, Briz and Bayer are raw speed figures. Thoroughgraph is not, Rags is not. I think, obviously a lot more ground loss and stuff like that goes into these figures. So I just think he's very, very tough to knock. Now, price, yeah, I agree. I think he's probably a 3-1, 7-2, 4-1 type favorite. But I agree 100% with what you said, Dan. You don't want to see a $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 pick 5 coming back to him as the favorite, and you don't have him. And here's IRAD 1-4 on the day already. You know what I mean?
Right.
That to me, I don't bet jockeys other than Leparoux is a token when he's on a bomb, but Arad is riding. I mean, I'm not sure, and I was never fortunate enough to see the Southern California colony back in the shoe days, but I've never seen a rider in this kind of zone as Arad is right now. So
no argument.
Whether he still is on May 2nd, of course, I mean, it's a cyclical game like anything, but man, whether it's his choice or politics or how he ended up on this horse, other than some of the others he could have ridden, I'm not as into that, but this guy is in the zone.
Now, next one. Are we ready? You going to say something else, Dan? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, for the people out there, don't take into consideration, Irad chose this one over the other two, because I think we all know that he didn't make that decision. His agent did. He completely left it up to the agent. At least what I was told from several people that, and I'm not saying his agent isn't one of the best in the country, obviously he is, but he's the one that made the decision. So you can't say, Irad was on all 3 of them and he chose. A lot more goes into choosing. There's a reason that Pratt stayed on the Chad Brown. In a perfect world, he'd have jumped onto one of those Brad Cox horses. But for future business, you can't do that. So there's a lot more that goes into jockey changes and who chooses who than just, this horse is better. That's not what happened here, at least from what I was told.
I think that the Kentucky Derby is the one race where trainers, riders, agents kind of have an understanding that, hey, I ride for you all year long. I know you're my bread and butter, but I think I got a better shot with this horse. Don't hold it against me. And I think that pretty much flies in this one particular race, unless somebody's being awfully, awfully petty. Now, I will say, and I don't think I'm at liberty to publicly say, but I do know how and why Irad wound up on Renegade as opposed to any of the other horses that he had an opportunity to ride. But we'll see. We'll see. Bill Shoemaker, one of the best ever. You can't argue with that, right? He picked Hill Rod instead of Northern Dancer. So what does that mean?
It happens.
And Eddie Arcaro, best quote of all time. The best quote of all time was asked on live television. If you were not, I think it was Jim McKay or one of those guys back in like the 80s when he was doing like the Wide World of Sports coverage, said, Eddie, if you weren't a rider, what would you have liked to have been? And he stood there and he goes, I think if I wasn't a rider, my best option would have been to be the bookie in the jockey's room.
I love that.
So I don't give a shit who picked who. Don't matter to me. In the gate, they're all riding. See what happens. Dan, So happy. The first one, I guess, that falls into that not a lot of races category. Well, he's got what he's got. He's got 4. So
He's got 4, and it's a great story with Mark Glad. I mean, if he wins, I'll be happy for him and his family. But I don't think this horse is near fast enough to win. The Buyer 103, the Rag 8.75 is just in this field. There's so many horses faster than him. He would have to run the race of his life to be on the wire. If I was betting tries and supers, I could see taking him at 20-1, 15-1, and putting him on one of those. But I don't think the West Coast horses are that good this year, and I think he'll run up the track.
Ed?
Yeah, I'm not. My biggest ick, as the kids say, is probably the pedigree. I really hate leaning on the I can't get the distance. I think a lot of times it's just a crutch or something people say, but kind of piggybacking on what Dan said about the Southern California horses in general, I think all 3 of us guys know Bob well enough. He wears his heart on his sleeve. I don't know that Bob is coming in here thinking that Potente is, a major threat. Certainly earned his way in and, belongs along with the winner of the race. But just, you look at that race and then compare it to the Florida Derby, and yeah, you're getting 10 times the price than you will on those horses. But it does just seem they're a couple low. And then to me, you throw in the Run Happy, and I just don't see how this horse, it improves like he'll need to beat some of these. So he's not a complete X, can't win, because there are actually some that are much lower on my totem pole than this one. But he's not going to be used on top at all for me.
Yeah, I agree. And, it's funny. I started the show by saying, these stats and, preconceived things that we used to go by don't really matter as much. And when I get to this horse, similar to you, Ed, I can't get past the Run Happy. And I don't want to be stuck there, but I just can't get past it.
Yeah.
Like a Run Happy, win the Derby. I mean, yeah, it could happen, especially nowadays, but it's not going to happen with my money, I don't think,
No.
So, yeah. Ed, you're up.
All right.
Full effort.
Oh, well, let me tell you.
Worked out.
I'm a fan. He let me start with saying that I actually love Stark Contrast in the Jeff Ruby Stakes, and was in a tournament and pretty much staked my tournament on it. Like, that was going to be the way I was going to win it. And on the turn, I felt pretty proud of myself. I'm like, man, this horse is rolling. This is who I thought he was. Like, that second to Gastat in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf showed he was a serious animal. Came back at 3 to run fine. Like, I'm thinking, man, I'm going to win this thing. And then Full Effort squashed my heart in, 2 seconds, and then just kept running on, as did Stark Contrast. And both got solid numbers. I actually hope Stark Contrast goes in the Derby. I think he'd be worth something at whatever he's going to be, 40 or 50 to 1. And if I feel that way, of course, I got to like the winner at what he was 23 to 1 in the last future wager, and I actually played him. And he hasn't gone down from there, so it may not have been a great bet. If he's 20 to 1 on Derby Day and I took 23 to 1 4 weeks out, that's a bad bet. But nevertheless, I mentioned that to say I'm a believer. I just thought he beat a really good horse. Dirt, of course, is a huge question mark, but I think we're getting the right price to find out. And maybe some people are shy because of Final Gambit last year. They're 2 different animals. I think Full Effort has a little more dirt in his pedigree anyway. And I just think at 20 to 1, he's worth a shot off that. Tyler
Gaffleone.
Okay. Yeah. So, to me, this is a matter of, because the race is so, I think, legitimately top heavy, Further Ado and Renegade, especially, and then the other 2 in the Florida Derby, we've touched on a little bit. To me, my strategy is going to hinge on Full Effort. I'm not looking to cash a further ado Renegade exacta box, but if full effort can split them, as we know in the Derby, just that 120 to 1 in there used correctly could really blow things up. So for me, full effort is the key to getting the gimmicks.
What say you, Dan?
I agree. And last year, you know, in front of the entire Bellarmine fundraiser, Kevin Kirstein and I argued over Final Gamut, and I told him he'd hit the board. He said he wouldn't finish in the top 10, and we went back and forth and made a little side bet. And Final Gamut was a 10.75 rag last year. Just to give you, you know, a little context, the rag on full effort is 7.5. The last figure. The 7.5 is not far behind the top 5 choices that are all 5 something to 6 something. So it screams to me this is the long shot to put in your tries, your supers, your exactas. I'm even going to put him in a 50-cent pick 5. I'm shooting for the moon at least one time. This will be the longest shot I use in the pick 5 on any tickets. Now, I won't use him a ton, but I will use him. That's kind of my Hail Mary ticket. I just think that the Jeff Ruby winner and the Jeff Ruby horses have gotten better through the years now that Churchill has taken over Turfway, a real prep race for the Derby with points and all. You know, Rich Strike obviously won the Derby. Two Phils was within 100 of winning the Derby. I mean, I bet on Two Phils. I thought he was going to win. When they turned for home, I leaped out of my chair and was screaming, "Oh my God, I'm going to hit this." And I thought, oh, you know, we're getting a 15 to 1 home from Turfway. Nobody takes. He's going to play 30 to 1. You know, and then last year I had Final Gamut and all my supers. So when I saw the Gray Fourth, I was ecstatic. So this is the same type horse for me. I think he's going to come storming home from the back, and I think Tyler's going to ride the hair off of him. He's going to be storming down the middle of that track. If he likes the dirt, which he's bred for it, Liam's Map, Unbridled Song, Awesome Again mare, there's no reason why he shouldn't like the dirt, but it's the Derby. 20 to 1, I'll take him. If he was 4 to 1, I wouldn't. So I think you got to have him on all your tries and supers.
Ed, let me ask you something. What's the fair odds on him?
I have my fair odds on him are 15.
All right. Well,
and that's with Chief Wallaby in. I think I had him at like 14, but since Chief Wallaby replaced a long shot and bumped a few up, so
we may knock that down a little bit here because we're all three in agreement on full effort being extremely live at a nice price. It probably just went down a few ticks. Because I agree with both of you. I think he's extremely live. I think he's one of the ones that will for sure be running late. I'm not worried about the dirt. You know, historically, Churchill Downs dirt has always been kind to turf and synthetic horses. They seem to run well over it. So yeah, we're all in agreement on full effort. The Puma. Who's up with the Puma? Ed, I think you're up.
No, I let off with my type.
All right, okay. Is it you, Dan? I think it's you.
Yeah, but this horse is the key to my whole day.
Interesting. Okay.
He will be on all my main tickets. He'll be a single in some of my pick 5s and pick 4s when I'm hitting all buttons in other races. I think he is as live as you can be alive. And 12 to 1, I mean, with JJ Castellano, I'm just picturing, I've known JJ Castellano and the way he rides for 20 years. And I can see this ride coming. He's going to swoop on the turn and try to get in front of all those other horses. He's gonna make his move before Renegade, before Commandment, before full effort, and he's gonna be in the lead at the 8th pole. In the way I envision this race. Now, will he get run down? He could, but he's got a major excuse when Renegade beat him. And everybody keeps saying, well, Renegade throttled him. What are you talking about? So, well, first of all, Renegade's going to be 7 to 2. The Puma's going to be 12 to 1. So before we get any further, that's the main reason. But if you watch that replay, the Puma was in a world of trouble the entire race in that Sam F. Davis. That there's a reason Gonzalez got yanked right off the horse. I mean, it was a brutal, brutal trip. Now, maybe he wouldn't have beat Renegade anyway, but with a clean trip, he'd have been somewhere within a length and a half, maybe 2 lengths of that horse. He at no time was able to run until it was too late. And then they yanked him off, put Castellano on. He wins the Tampa Derby, beats Further Ado. Then he comes back in the Florida Derby, a race he doesn't even need points. He's already in. He makes an early move, just like he's going to do in the Derby, gets to the lead, and they hand a while. He gets nailed. I mean, they weren't trying to abuse him. It's his 4th lifetime start. He should move forward again. And that I keep staring at that 5 1/4 Ragusan number, that 100 Briz, that 100 Buyer. If he takes one more step forward, he's going to be right on the wire. So I think he has to be one of your keys.
Okay, well, I'm gonna be contrary to you again here, Dan. Not sold. My major concern, and I agree about the Sam Davis. I was there that day. Okay, obviously would have been a lot more of a horse race had he not had the trip that he did. My main concern with the Puma is Gustavo Delgado. I've watched for years. Very, very sharp barn. He's been running horses. He did it in the Travers or the Jim Dandy years ago. A horse looked like it had no shot, run second at like 40 to 1. I forget the name. Did it with Mage, lightly raced. This horse is a little bit out of the mold of what he normally does. And I don't know if the Mage success has altered him a little bit. Don't know the guy. But I see 4 very hard races in a very short period of time. Almost looks to me like they rushed him or they're pushing him, or I don't know. I don't have my finger on it, but I just don't like. And it's not the only 4 races, because we said, early, and I'll stick with those words. I'm not concerned about a couple of starts, but I'm concerned about a couple of starts jammed in a short period of time for a horse, like you said, already had the points. They're running him anyway. I thought he was all out in the Florida Derby. I don't think they were saving anything in the tank. I watched that pretty close. Looked like he was all in. They thought they won. They were screaming. He was riding them. I'm a little concerned about a big regression from this horse. I just don't know that he can bring 4 races like that in a short period of time and now go to Churchill Downs and do it a 1.25 miles against the kind of horses he's going to see that day. If he wins, would I be shocked? Absolutely not. No, would not even be a little surprised. But I won't bet on him because I'm concerned about those hard races in a short period of time. So we need another tiebreaker, Ed.
I'm more Switzerland on this one, probably in the middle. I'm curious what his price is going to end up being. And Chief Wallaby, who worked on the day we're recording this, seemed to turn a lot of heads, may help the price on some others like the Puma. My biggest concern is the 4 starts all in, somewhat short time by today's standards. I think they knew that off that Tampa Bay Derby, he was going to improve, and he did in the Florida Derby, and they opted for 5 weeks instead of, let's say they had gone to the Memorial and, again, any one of these Florida Derby horses in the wood would have looked like Bellamy Road. And then you have to come back in 4 weeks off maybe an even bigger effort and a chance of regression. So like you said, Jonathan, pretty cagey trainer. I think he's looking to push the right buttons. When you start your career where he did, there's just so little margin for error. So that's what keeps me from being as bullish as Dan is. But I mean, this is certainly a solid, B for me. And if he runs well and a horse like Full Effort runs well, I have to have something. But I wouldn't say I'm all the way to where Dan is, but certainly further along than you. So yeah, solid B. If I'm right everywhere else, he could make for a nice, close to the pick 5 if we catch a price somewhere, but just not absolutely one of the ones, just because I'm nervous about the 4 starts since January.
Okay. Silent Tactic. Who's up? Ed?
You.
Me? Okay. Silent Tactic. I liked him at a nice price when he won the race at Oaklawn Park. He's never really advanced off that. I do think that the race is going to set up nice for him. But similar to how I felt about Commandment, I just I just think there's better horses in here than him. He's the kind of horse to me that make come up late and get a piece. But I really don't see him as a likely winner. Dan?
I'm the same way. I could put him in the super maybe. I don't think he has any chance to be 1-2. We do get some wild derbies. Could he be one of them? I guess 20-1. I can't knock you for putting him in your tries or super. I just don't think he's near fast, and it's got 4 starts since January 1, and highly unlikely, highly strange or whatever. There ain't many horses that win with 4 preps. There has been a few, but not a lot. And he would be a C or a pitch for me.
Ed?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of mentioned it with Renegade. Love the consistency, so he gives you a good sort of measuring stick against those around him. But this is the type of year, and I'm glad people are still saying, well, what about Rich Strike? Because that suppresses the prices on horses who truly are going to be underlays. And Silent Tactic won't be the biggest underlay in this race, but we just know who he is, and he just hasn't moved forward. He's consistent. That could be good enough for 4th with the perfect trip. So I agree with Dan in that regard, but this is just the type of horse who's running enough races, who's going to get just enough attention. In the Derby, when you have 20 horses, even 20 or 30-1 isn't like this super long shot separator. So for me, he's just a horse impossible to use on top.
Okay. Emerging market.
Well, I guess
I would say this would be one, if you're talking about who ends up being the best horse in the race long term, he's certainly in that conversation based on what he's been able to accomplish in just 2 career starts. And, kind of similar to the conversation or what I mentioned about Bob Baffert, I think Chad Brown is actually one of the more transparent trainers when it comes to discussing the talent of his runners. And it is very clear that he thinks very highly of emerging market and not in the, wouldn't blow out a match, trade places with anybody, platitudes. Like there is serious appreciation that he gets to train an animal like this. I'm still hung up on the 2 career starts though. We know he's great in the mornings. To win the Louisiana Derby, 2nd career start, going 9.5 furlongs, great. But the Derby 3rd career start to me is just another level. And one thing I'll be interested from your guys' perspective, looking at numbers as much as I do. To me, the Louisiana Derby, I'm pretty sure had the biggest gap between the winner and 2nd place. It was only a head. But the Ragozin difference in emerging markets number and Pavlovian is truly incredible in my mind. So we know the talent's there. But even at 15-1, which, I mean, all things considered is a price you don't usually get on an undefeated prep winner. But for the third career start, I just have to say that he's, that's justified territory. And there's other horses in here that are much better than the horses Justify ran against.
Yep, I agree with that. Down the road, maybe he's a Travers horse. Maybe he ends up being the top dream of curling, where he could develop and be a superstar. But he's not ready to win the Derby. I would be shocked if he won the Derby. I can't see it. Even with.
Go ahead. No, I'm sorry.
Can't do it. To me, you got to pitch him. If he was 20, 25-1, maybe I'd toss him in, but I guess you could use him in the try if you wanted to. I guess I just think too much towards the winner than underneath horses, but I can't even consider him on 2 starts and what is that now, 6 or 7 weeks layoff. That's just too long, and 6 weeks. And heck, I could even see this horse on the turf down the road. I don't know. Not for me.
I should probably, there's a button here. I could just take myself off the screen and drop off the show and let you guys, finish it, because and some of these we're just, far apart. So again, I'm going to have a really rough Saturday night, Sunday morning. If you
or you're going to win.
Better than all agreeing. Yeah.
I mean, that's why we have 3 voices.
Right. Or I'm going to be sipping pina coladas out on a pool while you guys are, crying. But I think he's live as heck. I don't care if he ran once. All right. I was there the day he won at Tampa. I watched the replay of the Fairgrounds race several times. And before I even get to, numbers or past performances, I will say the eyes, which I trust more than anything in today's sport. Okay. I would say that my most cherished handicapping tool at this point in the game and in my career is watching replays and taking my own notes, which I keep and save on all these horses. And often they're different than what you see in the past performances, because we all have our own ways of looking at things. And, when this horse ran first time out, I wrote things that I don't write about every horse. Dead game, fighter, route first time out, turn back everybody, looks like a boss on the racetrack, looks like a boss in the paddock, looks like he wants to race, fight, kick, buck, anything else that he's got to do. And he comes back and wins the Fairgrounds race. Again, dead game, digging in the stretch. We talked about how these old rules, lack of a better term, don't really hold up anymore. The Apollo curse went down with Justify. So we see a horse with 2 starts win the Kentucky Derby. I'm not going to be surprised at all at this point in the game. We see things like this now. I'm not even worried. Like I said, I don't care if he ran once. Wouldn't dissuade me based on what I saw with my own eyes, and I'll trust my own eyes over anything, win, lose, or draw.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I don't care.
To me, you're there.
Right, this horse looks like a racehorse and a half. And I will tell you this about Chad Brown. Chad Brown is a friend. I talk to him as a friend, and I will, share that I don't think he would mind my saying whatsoever. Chad does not run horses in spots that he does not think they can win. And he probably has as good an opinion of that as any trainer that I've ever known. And I've been around, I'm 63, I'm going to be 64. I've been around this game since I'm 5 years old, that's a long time and a lot of trainers. And he doesn't run his horse. That doesn't mean he's always right. You know what I mean? And we know 1,000,001 things. You could put this horse in a gate with 18, 19 other horses, and he's like, oh shit, he wants no part of it with only those 2 starts. All of that could happen, but I don't see it that way. I think he's very live. I think he's a major contender. I think he's got a great pattern. He's got a 4 and a 2 on those 2 starts. So 4, 2, 0. 0 negative, 1 negative is what I see, and that's exactly what puts him right in the race. So if the big field and that lightly race doesn't hinder him, I think he's right there, and he's got an advantage over some other lightly raced horses. Maybe not so much in this field, but Chad has got a barn full of high quality animals. If you watch, he trains his horses in sets. He trains his horses to go at it. He trains his horses to come again, inside, outside. They're running and training and galloping and working against other good horses. He's well prepped. I don't have a reservation at all about him. He'll be on every one of my pick 4, pick 5, pick 6 tickets. Will not let him beat me. No way. 2 starts, 1 start, 3 starts, doesn't matter. Live as heck, in my opinion. So save that for Sunday morning. Say,
well, one of us is going to be right.
next year, it sounds like next year I'll have the red circle with the line through on my screen. We can
right now. It sounds like our prop bet amongst us would be Emerging Market and the Puma.
Yeah.
They'll probably be somewhat similar prices, and
yep.
I would take the Puma.
I say I don't think the Puma can warm this horse up, but I've been wrong before. Albus. I don't know how to say it. What say you, gentlemen? Who's up? Me?
Dan.
I'm up. All right, Albus. This will be quick. He'd be the first horse I pitch, or one of the first horses I would pitch. Could you use him in the super maybe? I mean, he would have to improve 15 lengths just to hit the top 4. I can't see it. I mean, yeah, he only has 2 starts, so maybe he'll improve. Maybe he'll come running really late in the game to pick up some pieces. But, I mean, I could see him running 8th or 9th. I just think this field's way too good for him.
Apologize. I don't know why my phone rings. It's on Do Not Disturb, but go ahead.
Yeah, I just think he's a pitch.
All right. Ed?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, one thing I'm looking to brisk that now I hadn't noticed before, but, this horse, the pace was fast, race completely fell apart, picked up all the pieces, winning late, holding off right to party. His late pace rating, even after all that and the setup he had, was just an 89. And there's horses we've talked about, that are mid-pack or presser types running high 90s after, being closer near the pace. So this would truly be a shock. I mean, I can honestly say I liked Rich Strike better in his Derby than I remotely like this horse. And, I hate to, say it that way. It's a great story. And, the owner and Riley's been through a lot, and obviously it's who his dad is. And, this is, part of why we love the game in Derby time. But man, this would totally shock me.
All right. Well, we're in agreement here. All right. There's going to be some that we agree on anyway, and
and I'm not using them anywhere. Like, I mean, if he beats 15 horses for 4th, then you deserve that superfecta. But I'm going to deploy my capital on horses I think can, beat
right now, there's going to be somebody watching this show saying, Dan Albus, no. Ed Albus, no. John Albus, no. Albus. Check. Right now, hey, horses humble everybody.
That's right.
That's for sure.
Potente.
Ed?
You're up, John. No, you first this time.
All right. Okay. I will say this in defense of Potente, when he broke his maiden, all right, I had heard a lot about him. I said, you know what? I love this race, dead game race. I think he might be Bob's best chance to get into the Derby. And he had a lot of highly regarded horses back then that people would have put way ahead of this horse. And then next time out, he comes from off the pace and wins. I said, you know what? I could be right. I don't like him going in. I think he kind of just wound up being the one that wound up there. But I will say this. And it gets to something that Dan mentioned before, and I normally don't bet this way, but I may make an exception here because I got stung twice, all right? I didn't think Medina Spirit can win the Kentucky Derby, and a quarter of a mile into the race, there's nothing worse than I think it's worse than losing by a nose. There's nothing worse than knowing you got no shot to cash your ticket in the Derby when they've run a quarter of a mile. Okay? All right. It's a horrible feeling. We wait so long. We put so much into it. They come out of the gate. They're a quarter into the race, and you're like, I got no shot. I knew Medina Spirit was going to beat me. Okay? I said, if Bob gets clear like this, they're just not going to get him. That's not the only time it happened to me. It happened to me with Authentic. I didn't think Authentic could win the Derby. And a quarter of a mile into the race, I said, you know what? And I was alive the year Authentic won in the pick 6 and the pick 5 for $1 million with Sol Valente and $500,000 with Honor AP. And they were a quarter of a mile away in. And I said, I got no chance. Oh, it's gutted. So I don't like Potente. But I tell you this, I'm putting him on my ticket anyway. Because if comes out of the gate and has the lead by a length and a half or 2 lengths, and it's Bob Baffert, and he's out there by 2 or 3 lengths, I'm not sitting there watching that race going, you know what? I got no chance to win this friggin' race. He did it twice. He did it with Authentic. He did it with me. Get me once, shame on you. Get me twice, shame on me. Get me 3 times, I need to retire, and I'm not ready to retire yet. So, Potente's on my ticket. I don't give a shit what he looks like.
Well, you said it. I mean, the only way you take this horse is if that is your philosophy, which I completely understand. Authentic cost me so much money in the Derby, and then I'm so stupid. I threw him out in the Breeders' Cup too when I was using 3 or 4 horses, and I was alive to monster money that day. Because I had that 100 in the Breeders' Cup because I used all the Euros. And everybody in the back, I didn't handicap. I just took all the Euros. He was one of them. He wins, pays a. I got all these bets alive, and I didn't use Authentic. It's my own fault. It's my own fault.
Bob is my friend. His sons are my friends. I will be calling them to congratulate them on Saturday night if they win. I am not having him on my ticket. It's just I'm not just no. And I don't normally bet that way. There's nothing sentiment, but in this case, exception made.
Because logically, you can't take him.
That doesn't matter. There's no
I do like him better than the horse that beat him last time.
Logically, I can't not take him.
Yes. Right. Yeah, I agree with Ed. I do like him better than So Happy. I think he's got a better chance to hit the board than So Happy does, to just keep plodding along.
All right. Anybody want to add anything else about Potente? All right. So if he wins, I'll cash, but take no handicapping credit.
Fair.
Pavlovian.
We're getting into a run of horses that are going to be quick ones for me. This, I mean, maybe he's like 1% more likely than Albus, but I don't see this horse's path to the winner's circle. And he's dressed up with the second emerging market, but Ragozin was nowhere near as impressed as the head margin may indicate, and just is going to have to beat me.
I agree. It's a pass, and I love Dougie. He's a friend of mine, and we joke all the time. And I know they're sending him to the lead. For all the pace people, straight from the horse's mouth, going to the lead if he breaks. They're not taking back.
All right. Yeah, we'll make it quick with these because we've been going over an hour, so we'll try not to bore people. He's a pass for me. Toss, pass, whatever you want to say. Right to party. Ed?
Well, going from the horse with dog gas to one who needs another collapse, and it's amazing looking at his PPs, the pace that he's the opportunities had with the pace, and credit to his jockey, and McPeak sticks with him. He's made the most of it to get up, and last time at 38-1 to qualify for the Derby. He's one of those that even though I would slot him as among the least likely winners, you don't really have to worry about him being last. So for those who, may have pools at parties or whatever, it's last place horse, don't be fooled by his odds. I'd be shocked if this horse were last because of his run style, but a win, I mean, it's pretty similar to Albus, really. Like, just I can't see what has to happen in this race for him to win, because the contenders cover all the pace scenarios. There's horses close to the pace, there's mid-pack, there's closers. Is he going to beat all of them? I mean, I say no shot, so toss.
I agree.
Toss.
Cool story that Elliott's riding and gets to ride in the Derby, but other than that, try to split the field.
Yeah. Ed, have there been any father and son jockeys that have won the Derby?
Ah, that's a great question.
That could be a first. I don't think so.
Yeah, have to look into that.
Be pretty cool for his dad to watch it, won't it?
Yeah, that would be something. And I will say this, and I don't know what it is, and he's been doing it to me for at least 10 years, maybe more, maybe 15. It's hard for me to read Kenny's horses, and I don't know why. I just misread them so many times. I think they're going to run good, and they don't. And so many times I toss them, and they jump up and win. So he's a toss for me. But
I know what you mean, but I mean, to me, this case, there's no nuance.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, just
Incredible. Anybody like him?
No, I will say I'll share a stat just because I have something to say that's good about him after a couple negatives. But we hear a lot about Churchill and, you want experience. And I was always curious what the numbers actually say. And horses in the last 13 derbies, so basically the points era, went back to Orb. Horses who have raced at Churchill and won, 4 for 49, which win percentage doesn't sound great, but they actually have a positive ROI. Horses who have raced at Churchill and not won, so they're 0 for Churchill with actually having raced, 0 for 46. Wow. So that win, a little feather in the cap for Incredible, but that's the only feather in my mind. That Holy Bull, I know Riley said, he didn't like the track, and I mean, maybe that's the case, but man, that was really bad. And that Virginia Derby is just, I wonder about who was behind there. I mean, Confessional was dreadful at Keeneland at a short price, and 1 turn, mile and an eighth, 7-week layoff. That just, to me, was like, let's get the points and get in the Derby. I don't see him as a player.
And a lot of horses have been coming off that Colonial meet and running bad all over the place. You got horses that are winning 10, 15 lengths over that fast track, and they come off and they're getting overbet and they're running up the track. Brad Cox just had one the other day. I forget. I think he was in the Lexington.
Yeah, Confessional.
Right. That's the race that got me into BCBC. I played my first ever $179 Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge seat tournament. And I played it because I loved Trendsetter. And I said, this horse can get me into the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge. And I played it and I won and we got in first time. So
nice.
Now I got to roll it and win the tournament, but that's a whole nother story. Golden Tempo.
I think he's got a legitimate chance to hit the board.
I agree.
I would put in my tries and supers the style, the rider, Jose Ortiz. I think he's going to drop way back, and I think he's got a big chance. If there's going to be a 20 or 30 to 1 shot that hits that Tri or Super, he would be on the short list of balms, I would call it, that I would put in there.
Agree. Ditto. Ed?
The Louisiana Derby was supposed to be the one for him, and he didn't show up again. I shouldn't say didn't show up. He was third and picked up horses, and there was that weird move to the rail. Cherie, one of the best. She learned from one of the best. I have a lot of respect for her, and she's a trainer I love to play with confidence when I'm narrowed in on a horse. And to me, the flip side is true. She is one of those I feel like I've had a good read on. And to me, this one, catching some buzz around 15 or 20 to 1 would sort of be that one where, like, man, if I'm trying to stay in a certain budget or I'm, allocating capital, this horse would be, I just didn't like what I saw in Louisiana.
I see it, but what I saw made me more of a question mark. I saw that weird kind of move towards the rail. He's always had to make up a lot of ground. He makes that big move and then is kind of out of gas when he gets there to kind of close the deal. And, maybe in the Derby when you got a lot more tired horses and maybe he moves later and gets the distance. I don't know. I'm having a hard time tossing him. He's a curling.
They made a big deal about the blinkers and, we want him closer, and that didn't materialize at all. But he still ran on, so it wasn't like, he didn't run a race. And I know some people think second time blinkers is the time. I've seen that. So it's a tough read, but I just feel like getting maybe a little too much buzz to take a shot at the price he's going to be. But I certainly like him more than the last three we've talked about.
Okay. Otinho. Anybody give him a shot?
He's out, isn't he?
Oh, he's out? Okay,
he's
good.
out.
Good. Stark Contrast. Is he in?
As of now, I've heard since the Ruby, like, they'll go to the American turf. They did this with Endlessly and learn their lesson. I've thought this horse is going to end up in the Derby all along. They still haven't taken him out of consideration. Personally, I wouldn't. I thought the Ruby was fine, and he's going to be 40 or 50 to 1 in here, but I like the horse who beat him. So the year I liked Tis the Bomb, I didn't have anything on Rich Strike. I'm not going to make that mistake here. I'm going to take a horse who, finished behind the horse I like at a monster number. And I go back to that Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, guys. I know it was on turf, but that horse that he was getting to is a legitimate Group 1 European horse. Obviously, that's turf. This is dirt, but at 40 or 50 to 1, he can be a make music for me type. You just need to be fourth or third at that price.
Okay.
If he runs here, unfortunately, I'm torn. I hate it when they do this to turf horses. They've ruined so many of them through the years by putting them in the Derby, and then they're never the same. Depends on how much money the owners got and what box they want to sit in, but I would run in the turf because I think he'd win the turf. And to me, it's more enjoyable to win the turf on the undercard and celebrate and have a good time than run 15th in the Derby and jeopardize your horse for the rest of the summer with the Belmont Derby and all these other really nice 3-year-old turf stakes races. You just really risk getting the horse, in a way that he doesn't need to be. So I pray that they run in the turf because I'm going to bet on him. If he runs in the Derby, I'd probably put him in my Tri or Super, but I wouldn't put him on top.
Agree. We're consistent there. Now, I think this is our last horse, and he's an interesting one to talk about. Chief Wallaby.
Yeah.
Why am I leaving somebody out, Dan?
The Japanese horse.
Oh, I don't have him on my list. Yeah.
Danon Bourbon. Is that the name? And then you got Wonder Dean and 6 Speed. That probably take about 3 seconds to talk about.
I don't know anything about them. So
yeah, I mean the Japanese horses. Every year somebody likes the Japanese horse. And good handicappers, all the time. I'm going to pitch them every single time until one of them beats me, and none of them have yet in the pick fours or fives. So I'd pitch all of them, and but I think Dana Bourbon has the better chance of any of them to finish in the top 6 or 7.
Ed, you know anything about these Japanese horses that we need to know?
Yeah, I mean the one like from Japan, although he is Kentucky bred, but the one who's trained and raced only in Japan is undefeated. He's won his 3 races by 18.5 lengths combined. But like Dan, I mean, Forever Young went the UAE route and wasn't good enough on Derby Day. Well, let's say he was good enough, but still didn't get the job done. It's just such a tall ask, and this isn't one I'm going to be excited about against this group. We've identified legitimate 3, 4, 5, 6 horses, whether we've agreed on them all or not. But to come over here and beat them this year seems like a tall task. As for the UAE Derby, around the turn when 6-speed was opening up, I'm like, man, this horse could be a gate to wire candidate. And then he dropped anchor. But the only horse who caught him was Wonder Dean, and it was a decent way back to 3rd. So of the 3, I would say Wonder Dean I like best, just because he's shown he can, pick up pieces, and there should be some pace in this Derby. So Wonder Dean I would, sort of use on that tier of, if I'm right about everything else, I wouldn't want him to be the one that beats me. Whereas, a horse like Albus, that's just going to have to be wrong. But yeah, I would say Wonder Dean is the only minimal threat of the 3 foreign horses.
Chief Wallaby. Who wants to take the lead on Chief Wallaby?
He'll be one of my main horses. I bet my lung in the Florida Derby and was throwing stuff. I was throwing stuff from the half-mile pole on. That's how much I disliked the ride. I thought it was one of the worst big race rides I've seen in a long time for a horse that needed the points, needed to hit the board, needed to be 1-2. Ultimately, he got lucky and got in. But that trip was miserable. If he gets a better trip, his numbers, his class, everything screams that this horse has a big chance to win this race. And at 8 or 10 to 1, I'm going to have Further Ado, the Puma, and Chief Wallaby on pretty much every ticket I do. I mean, 10 to 1s and 12 to 1s I love taking in the Derby. And I think Chief Wallaby screams you got to have him on your pick 4s and 5s. I love his pattern on the rag. He's got a 6 1/4, 6.5 back to back. If in that 6.5 he got in trouble, so it probably would have been a little bit better. He's coming out of the best prep race. The only knock I got on him is I don't like the blinkers going on. I think the stats back that up, but who am I to tell Bill Mott what to do? So, obviously he knows more about training than I do for sure. So I'm just going to try to ignore that. And he's going to be one of my top 3 horses in all my bets.
Ed?
Yeah, the blinkers is a little pause, I guess, considering he's going to be quasi short. He'll be in that second tier of horses in terms of the betting, but agree with Dan on everything on the progression. And, after the Fountain of Youth and the number he got in there, behind Commandment, but it looked like if he keeps moving forward, who's going to beat him? And it turns out Further Ado ended up with the best numbers along with a few others right behind him, but he's in the mix with improvement. And, because of the loss, we're actually getting, in some ways, you could see it as a better price than we would have gotten if he had won. So I think the value is there even after that penultimate work and the day we're filming turned a lot of heads. But I think we're in an era, whether it's CAW and just how the race gets bet, that workouts that far out aren't going to scare the price away too much. So yeah, he's he's a solid, depending on how deep I want to go in terms of the A opinion, which for me is further ado and full effort. He's B plus, A minus for me.
He's one of the top picks for me, and it's primarily something that Dan alluded to. I thought he had the trip in the Florida Derby that was the worst of the three, and I said he's the one that I want coming out of that race. And we talked about how that might be, arguably the best of the Derby preps, and it probably is. And I thought with the right trip, he could have beaten, both of those horses. And he's, in my opinion, the most likely to improve off that race. So the blinkers, yes, a little question, but again, I agree. I'm not going to question Bill Mott like you guys aren't. The work today, I'm assuming, was with the blinkers. So maybe that kind of quiets down a little bit of that of that concern. But yeah, I think he's a major player. So I think it's hell of a Derby. Looking forward to it.
It is, yeah. And unlike last year, would Baeza get in or not? I'm just giving a quick scroll of horses who may draw in that we didn't touch on. They're not in, but Chip Honcho and Trepido, Litmus Test, Great White, Napoleon Solo. I mean, none of these are close to Baeza last year. So even if there are draw-ins, other than changing the pace dynamic, which a horse like Chip Honcho might do, Litmus Test. Other than that, from the win-end standpoint, this is the field.
Now, we know we don't know the draw yet, but Ed, didn't you post something on Twitter or X, something about the advanced forecast, and you said you've seen worse or something? Was that you?
Yeah, that was me. So far so good. I mean, we're getting into later in the week in terms of the 10-day now, and my experience, just trying to guess what the forecast now means for what it'll actually be, when we're looking at Oaks Day and Derby Day. I would anticipate maybe some scattered showers, but I'm feeling pretty good that we're going to avoid sort of the all-day front that stalls over Louisville. And I'm no workout expert, but I am a good weatherman come Derby time.
There you go.
I like it. Dan, where could people find more about you, Fat Ball Guy?
Yep, fatballguyracing.com. We're doing so many videos. I'm getting tired of them already, but we'll be ready. You just heard the opinion of the top ones. So, I mean, I think the 5 or 6 top ones are pretty clear, and now it's just a matter of how in the heck are we going to cash a bet with them.
And Ed, you can find on Horse Racing Nation. Me, you can find here on Past the Wire or in other unsavory places. And there we go. That's a wrap for 2026. We'll do it again, and God willing, in 2027.
I hope so. Yeah, this is a good group. So
fun show. I think
we all hope the race lives up to it.
Yeah, I'm hoping I survive some of those I don't know, bold, but some of those hard opinions on Sunday don't come back to embarrass me.
Well, I mean, as handicappers, I hope we all, even when we don't agree, respect that we're actually willing to, plant a flag on some of our opinions. I always tell people, I still get ribbed a little bit for how much I love Tiz the Bomb. And my response to that is, well, you knew where I stood, it was wrong, but
exactly,
my opinion. Like, I'm not here to hedge on Derby Day.
And any of you point out anybody who's ever played this game who's been right more than they've been wrong? I don't know that person.
That's right.
When you're right, you got to make a score. You have to.
And when you're right, make it count. That's my philosophy. When you're right, make it count. You can erase a lot of those mistakes when you do that. Well, gentlemen, enjoy the Derby.
All right.
And we'll be in touch.
All right. Thanks for having me. This was great.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan.
Right. Ciao, ciao.
Here comes journalism. Here comes sovereignty. And they square off, heading to the final. Sovereignty wins the Derby.
You're watching Past the Wire TV. Hit that like button and subscribe to Past the Wire TV. Nobody does it better.